Hiya, I'm Sam Tidmarsh and I'm the producer for this event, so thank you very much for coming. It's awesome to see so many people in the room, and it is packed. Welcome to the Future Media Leaders Debate. I'd like to start by welcoming up our brilliant panel, so please join me on the stage. Can we just maybe start by just running down the line and just a very brief introduction of yourself, starting with Jackie?
Hi, I'm Jackie Lyons. I'm Head of Planning at Havas Media Group.
Brilliant.
Hi, I'm Amy Caven. I'm Head of Media Strategy and Planning at Boots.
Good morning. My name is Jordan Joe O'Brien. I'm a broadcaster at Channel 4 News, TalkSport and Black Academic Media.
And I'm Chris Kenner. I'm the founder and CEO of North America for Brand Advance Group.
So this session is dedicated to the next generation of media leaders. What we've got is a 1-hour debate bringing together our illustrious panel of emerging industry leaders, and it's all in collaboration with you, the audience. So together we'll be outlining the key challenges our industry is facing today, and we're going to be moderating it in the style of Question Time, if you've seen that on BBC, it's the politics show. So we're just going to be coming up and down, so get your thinking caps on, be thinking of comments you'd like to make, questions you'd like to ask the panel, things that you yourself believe should be the most important things that we should be championing. And what we're going to be doing is also having the same debate in the other room with global C-suite media leaders. So then we can compare and contrast what our brilliant session today brings out and what the leaders bring out in the other room too. And the purpose is that in both debates we want to land on the three kind of major topics for the media leader or publication to champion in 2023. This will be down to our panel and for you to decide, and we're going to be doing some nice polling. So you're going to have a really good, strong voice in deciding our core focus as a publication over the next year. And to confirm, I'm going to be the one leading you, so don't get too excited. I can see some excited faces in the front row, so yeah, it will be me. But don't worry, you don't have to come up with all of these three topics yourself off the top of your head. We've landed on 10 talking points for this debate based on discussions we've been having over the last 12 months when constructing this event and the conversations Omar, Ella and Jack have been having with all of you on the Media Leader. So these are sustainability, diversity and inclusion, the talent crisis, inflation and cost of living, media measurement, effectiveness, attention marketing, trust in media, the renaissance of media planning and media collaboration. And just to remind you that the core thing over the next 60 minutes is we decide on those top 3 topics for the media leaders champion in 2023. So we've got some things to be getting on with, so we better get started. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This is Slido, and it's a brilliant tool for event organisers, so I love it. Don't worry, I don't get sponsored. If you log in via that QR code, just point your phone up at the screen. That's where you'll be able to vote in our polls, which is a really important part of this. So please, everyone, get out your phones. Chris. Point your camera. Chris, get out of the way, mate.
Are we done?
Brilliant. And just point it at the screen and click the link that comes up, and you'll be able to log in using the hashtag #FutureLeaders. Sweet. You can ask questions on there and make comments based on the discussion. Nothing rude, please. And you can all vote for your favourite questions and comments too, and the creme de la creme will rise to the top naturally. Okay, so what we're going to start this with is has everybody got that? Anybody else need to point the camera at the screen? Chris, get out of the way.
You sat me here.
This is actually why we brought you onto the panel. Yeah. So, the time is up to... Oh no, it's still there. The QR code's still there. We're fine. Everybody's fine. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to start by getting everyone to vote. Have you all seen that come up on your phones now? You can vote for the most important topic you need to champion in 2023. Has everybody got that? Yeah, is everybody voting? I can see 23 have already voted in the top right-hand corner. 31 now, it's shooting up. 39, keep them coming. Surely there's over 100 people in this room. We should see more. Keep it coming. There's those 10 topics. And while we do that, I'm going to turn to our brilliant panel and ask you to go one down the line, and just in 60 seconds, what do you think is the most important topic out of these 10 that we should be championing? Shall we start with Chris?
You would. All right. I'm going to go with diversity and inclusion. I don't have any notes, so here we go. 6 seconds. It's actually called responsible media in our industry. And that's because we've all got a responsibility to make sure that we are doing things different to reach everybody with our media plans, to make sure that using the slot before X Factor doesn't reach every family. The slot between the match of Man City smashing Man United 6-3 doesn't reach every young man. The responsibility to ensure that media plans of the future and next year, that this is top of agenda for reaching LGBT, disability, religion, Muslim, and all different communities. So yeah, it's DEI, but it's actually responsible media, because you've all got responsibility to make sure it happens.
Brilliant, thanks. After you, Jordan.
I'm going to go for trust in media. The way I look at it is trust is the core of anything that's important. If every neighbour on my road is telling me that they're seeing my wife send off 10 half-naked men every day, my trust in my marriage is going to be pretty low. If I fly with an airplane or an airline that have a record of planes falling out the sky, again, my trust in that particular airline is going to be very, very low. So media's no different. I think it's important that what we're consuming and what we're watching, what we're taking in, people believe, people think it's authentic, people think it's genuine. And at a time when there's so much fake news, there's so many different outlets all talking about the same story, I think the consumer can be confused as to what is real and what should I trust and what shouldn't I trust. So for me, the trust is at the core of everything that I do as a broadcaster, be it Channel 4, TalkSport or Black Academic. Black Academic in particular, because we have a community we talk to in particular. If they don't feel that they can trust in what we're delivering, what we're saying, they would just disengage completely. So trust in media, I think, is at an all-time high, and it's needed more than ever.
Brilliant. Thank you. Amy?
Okay, I went for effectiveness. So for me, surely that's why most of us in this room do what we do to deliver effective campaigns, whether you're a media owner, advertiser, like myself, media agency, we're all striving to achieve effective campaigns. And essentially the industry won't be around if we don't do that and prove that. And I think that's even more true now than ever with the uncertain times ahead, cost of living, inflation, recession. There's more onus on us and as an industry to prove that it works and that we should still continue to invest in, because as we know, marketing is often the first thing that gets cut. So need to prove effectiveness. And actually I think it also helps us make choices as well. And make decisions. If we can prove things are effective, then we can champion all the brilliant stuff on that list. So we can champion D&I, we can champion sustainability. If we can prove it's having an effect, it makes so much easier conversations in the boardrooms, etc., when you can prove effectiveness. So actually, I think it ticks off all of those lists under the head of effectiveness. That's me.
Brilliant. Jackie?
So I think I'm the only media planner here, and I think actually across all the debates, I'm the only media planner, so I feel like I have to choose the renaissance of media planning. It's my duty and honour to do that. But I actually would go further than that. I actually think there's no debate about media planning. Not one of those really important topics can come to bear through media plans, through work streams, effectiveness, the cost of living crisis, diversity and inclusion, of course the climate crisis, are massive important topics, and none of them can be tackled without that art of media planning, without knowing how to deploy them. Something like attention, buzzword, or actually a science, the right people, the right brains, to bring all of these really important topics to bear is critical, and also to challenge clients and to influence the conversation at a cross-agency level.
Brilliant. Well, we've heard the pitches from each of our panellists, but of course you voted beforehand, so let's see what you were thinking. Has anybody got a drum roll? Have we got a drum roll? No? Oh, there we go, perfect. 3, 2, no, I'm just kidding. Right, okay, well, straight out on top, we've got sustainability coming in number 1. We've got inflation, cost of living coming in number 2, 19%.
That answers a lot.
It does.
In fact, all three of us.
The bottom 3.
The talent crisis at 13%. Media measurement at 12. Diversity and inclusion, 11. I'm having to do a dance here. Don't know what that is on the bottom. Trust in media. There we go, perfect. And we've got some other ones coming back. Right. Okay, well, this is incredibly interesting because actually And I'm going to show something in a second. This is quite different to something we did before the event. We sent out a poll pre-event to see what people's opinions would be. Now, I wonder whether there's any difference of us doing it at our laptops at home individually and doing it as a group in person. And I wonder whether that influences our psychology at all. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know. I don't know if it was kind of a redundant point, wasn't it? Stop laughing at me. So what I'm going to do now is show you what we came up with before the event. Media measurement right at the top. Trust in media. Effectiveness, sustainability, and the talent crisis. These were the top 5. Media measurement was way out in front. Now, if we look at where it is there, it's 4th. So I'm going to keep flicking between these, but I just want to get the initial reaction from our panel and see what you think. Do you think we're right in putting sustainability at the top? Surely sustainability would be something that, like you said, Jackie, feeds into really great media planning. Is that the most important thing we should be focusing on in 2023? What's your take?
Sustainability was my number 2 topic, but I do still believe that you can't have it without media planning, so just to be clear. But we need collective action. It's quite obvious. The climate crisis, both from a cost of living perspective and the impacts that the focus is going to have in the new year around which is more important, but also the plan to get there. Like, it's quite a complex topic. And when you bring it into the world of media, where does the conversation begin? So we need clients to force the conversation, and increasingly we're seeing, at pitch level, those kind of topics are coming up. Questions are being asked about our approach, but actually at the media owner side as well. The facts are really shocking. I think it's something like Goodloop have quoted something like 5.4 carbon tons are created in the average digital campaign. That's about 1/3 of the average American consumer on an annual basis. So that is quite a shocking thought. And I think we need, as an industry, to keep it a priority to make sure that things change in 2023.
Yeah, the streaming video for 1 hour a week consumes the same energy as 2 refrigerators plugged in for an entire year. That's off the top of my head, by the way. And we're obviously now seeing carbon impact on media plans, which is obviously a good step. I mean, what's your take on this, Jordan, from a broadcaster perspective?
In terms of the top one?
Yeah, are you seeing this in your conversations more and more? Are people worried about this?
They are worried about it. I think that they talk a lot about sustainability in terms of, I think more to talent, in terms of how we can keep talent in broadcasting and journalism, because that's really, really important. To my point earlier about the quality of what we deliver to our consumers and what they consume. Keeping the best journalists and broadcasters delivering the stories that people want to read about and hear about is really, really important at a time when anybody can be a broadcaster. You can just set up a podcast and talk rubbish all day long. I think the need for really high quality broadcasters and journalists has never been more important. So in terms of the top one there, I think what we face in my industry is how do we not only bring through more talented broadcasters, but how do we keep them? And how do we sustain a level of quality that ensures that the consumers are always getting what they need to get?
Mm-hmm. And Chris, what's your reaction to this vote? What's your reaction to the top 3? And what's outside of the top 3?
All right, I'm going to be the gubby one. Right. I think the top 2 are what we should, because the question was, what is the most important topic that media leaders should champion in 2023? The top 2 we should be championing as human beings. Do you know what I mean? Sustainability should be through everything that we're doing, both at home and then at work. And then if you've got a position of privilege, then using that to influence more around you. Inflation and cost of living, again, yes, as businesses and business leaders, we can do our bit to that. But yeah, so I'm pretty disappointed that trust and D&I and stuff are at the bottom, especially because we're sat in Black History Month, people. You could have just voted for it just because it was this month. So I'm disappointed in you all. If I had a mic, I'd drop it and storm off. Joking.
Right, well, Amy, I know you voted for effectiveness, and that's looking quite low on the list, sir. Can you tell us what your reaction is to that?
Yeah, I'm perhaps a little surprised, but at the same time, do not want to be saying that any of those are not important at the same time. So it's a tricky one to say. I think we almost think effectiveness is kind of done and dusted. It's been around for so long. We had the IPO Effectiveness Awards this week. It's kind of, what we expect, and maybe there's an expectation that we don't need to keep pushing it and driving that and making that top of the agenda. it's almost a given. But I don't think that's the case, especially coming from an advertiser perspective. It's the question we're asked every single day, and it's the one thing that will affect decision making very quickly if we can't prove effectiveness. So that's why I'm so keen that we do keep championing it, because like I said in the pitch, that it then lets us unlock so many of these other initiatives as well. So I'm surprised it's so low, but I do think there's a role for it to be higher, because how are we going to get to do all that other brilliant stuff if we can't prove that any of it works, essentially?
Remember, this is a debate as well, so we want to get people's perspective in the audience. And I know there's going to be a few people here who voted for sustainability, obviously, because it's the top one. So I want to, if you want to have your say, get your hand up. We've got the brilliant Ella Segar, who's our reporter, the media leader, on the floor, roaming reporter. So Ella, can you tell us a little bit about your conversations recently on the media leader, what people have been telling you, particularly about those top three, but maybe choose one of them and tell us what you think.
Okay, yeah, I'll pick sustainability, because that's something that we've been discussing on our team for a long time now. I was talking to Jake Dubbins, I don't know if he's in, about this, who's co-founder of the Conscious Advertising Network, and he said it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and it's more important than ever. So I think people are kind of coming around to that. And if anyone does have any thoughts about sustainability or any other questions, just raise your hand. And
Surely at least one person who voted for sustainability would like to give their perspective. Yes, yeah, Ella, right here in the front. It'd be great to hear from you about why you think sustainability is the most important topic that we should be championing next year.
Hi everyone. The reason, I think loads of those are really important for different reasons and to different people, but also some of them overall. But I think in terms of, I know you said the question actually says most important for media leader, I think the other thing is 2023, and sustainability is very imminent, and I think the point about fake news and delivery of media to everyone, that message needs to be shared, I think personally, quicker than the other ones. Although the other ones are important, once that message gets across, we do things better generally.
Mm-hmm.
So if the question didn't have 2023 in it, I maybe wouldn't have said sustainability, but in terms of speed, what should be happening first, I think that's the one.
I'm not sure if everybody could hear that, but if you'd like to...
If you'd like to say it again, just how you said it.
Try it again.
I'll try and do it a bit shorter.
There we go.
I basically think it's the most imminent of all of them that needs to be dealt with. I think it may not even be the most important, but it's the most imminent and therefore the most important. And the faster everybody gets on the sustainability train, which some people still don't even think exists, the faster some of those other things can be done better. And obviously once you ingrain consistency of that sustainability across things like your media measurement, across things like your DNI teams, not only from the planet perspective, but actually from the long-term benefits and sort of, sustainable growth. I think growth was mentioned earlier. Then you can start to do those other things better. So that's why I think it's the most important one.
Good argument.
Brilliant, thank you. And we've got another perspective here.
Cheers. So less of a comment, more of a question. Have anybody on the panel changed a media plan because of the sustainability of the media channel?
I can answer that from an advertiser point of view. Probably, being honest, no. We'll look at it, we'll understand it, we'll absorb it based on all the work that Group N do on carbon calculator, etc., which is a brilliant tool. And we'll say, okay, we'll almost pat ourselves on the back and say, okay, great, we've contributed this. And I think that's because we're in the early stages, and perhaps to the chap in front's topic is at a point is that's why it needs to perhaps go at the agenda quicker, because at the moment it's kind of a sanity check exercise, and okay, yeah, we're doing all right, but I don't think we're making changes. Now that's the advertiser point of view. I'd love to hear perhaps agency point of view on that one as well.
So the answer, I'm going to say the royal we, the have-ass we, because I actually don't have any clients. But yes, and it comes from a client perspective to begin with. So EDF is a good example. EDF have a massive purpose around doing the right thing in that space. And so without greenwashing, what we wanted to do was make sure the media plan was being more effective. but using sustainability principles. So for example, they've massively weighted audio, which has far lower carbon footprint than video. And they're making a concentrated effort with Havas London to figure out brilliant ways to crack audio for them, to have an always-on presence. That's one example. But I will say, this is why I think it's such an important topic and why media planners have such an important role, is because we have to bring to clients how long it's going to take to switch behaviour, how long it's going to take to put a plan in place to change over to a low-carbon plan, what the compromises are, what test and learn looks like. Like, it's a massive, massive agenda point. And so we have put in place a programme internally to audit where every client is in that journey, and so we can start to have the right conversations, because it's going to take time that we don't have if we don't all collectively join together.
So something I want to say is this is not the final vote, right? We're going to have another vote in the middle, and we're going to choose a couple from that to put in the pot, the top 3. We're also going to get rid of a couple that are on the bottom so we don't have to think about them ever again. No, I'm just kidding. We'll still be talking about all of these issues, but what we want to do is find the top 3 that we really need to be championing and putting as the core focus. We'll talk about everything else throughout the year on the media leader, but what are those top 3 things? And all I want you to think about is, we have the renaissance of media planning here. Should things like sustainability and DE&I, as Chris so eloquently put, and attention all ladder up to this point?
Yes.
Should it be sustainability at the top that you're voting for, or should it be the renaissance of media planning? And that's just something I want you to be thinking of throughout. I'm not, this isn't leading you down a certain way. All I'm saying is, I think these are the things we have to take into consideration, right? Because we want to make sure that all of these things are focused. I'm going to go back to LSA Go on the floor, because I can see somebody has a question.
So one observation and a bigger question to everyone. Everyone in the panel kind of chose the thing that is more related to what they do on a day-to-day basis in terms of what is more important. And it's interesting to see that the previous poll, it was probably more related to media conversations or topics. And today's poll is more about, back to Chris' comment, more just general human stuff on the news. How do you think we join all of that? That's kind of the bigger question.
Is that a renaissance in media planning point?
Try not to answer again.
Yeah, of course. Chris? Chris, take it on.
How do we join all that? I think we just...
Because my point is, I don't think there's anything that I don't know if anything's or something's more important than something else, but I guess you'll have a very valid point.
Yeah.
And you'll kind of, from your own side of the fence, then I guess we put all these things together.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, I think sustainability is a human thing to do. So we join that together because we should all be making sure and putting that in front of clients and giving them options that might be, either a carbon neutral plan or working with partners that help with sustainability. I mean, we'll probably get into it a bit later, but I think some of the others are a little bit fair against some. So let me start off the gobbing off, which is like diversity, inclusion, and then effectiveness. I think sometimes, to register effectiveness from media that only really got funded about 3 years ago when Black Lives Matter happened, against media like Murdoch's empire, sorry Shelley, that's been funded for the last 50 years by advertising. I think that's unfair, to hold these two mediums by the same standards. They need time to get everything in place, to understand the technologies, so it's sort of like letting somebody into the same race, but telling one of them to hop it while the other ones can run, So I think although it does make sense, I think there's nuance in a lot of this to make it fair and to make it workable.
I think it's a very basic answer, but all of us in this room on this panel here will have differing levels of expertise in all of those areas. So I think that to answer your question, how we bring it all together is to, after this event, those that are stronger maybe media measurement, talk to people who are stronger in attention marketing. And I think if we can all kind of collaborate, the word was used on the panel earlier on, if we can all collaborate to bring together all of our strengths and skill sets, that for me feels the best way we're going to kind of bridge all of those things. They're all important. They're all important. but there's some things in there that I personally won't have an expertise or strength in, you might. So let's talk afterwards and bring that together. That, for me, on a very basic level, I think is how we get to where you're trying to say we get to.
I want to bring up media measurement now, which is right at the top of this pre-event survey. And it's something I've, ever since I joined Mediatel, found as the #1 topic everybody wants to discuss. And we've actually got a whole debate in itself coming up in the Bishopsgate room after the break. It's going to be a big one, but we knew we had to put on a full 90-minute debate on that in and of itself, because measurement is so important, it keeps coming up. It's a real sticking point in this industry, which we're trying to solve. And that's everything, by the way, from cross-media measurement, cross-device measurement. Should we be doing that? Carbon, how do we measure carbon on our media plans? Surely media measurement should be up there. I don't know what your take on that is, Amy.
I think it's similar to the effectiveness point in a way. I think a lot of the time we think it's someone else's problem, and maybe that's what some of the media owners or agencies in the room sometimes say, okay, well, there's a dedicated econometrics team that will do that, or it's someone else that can deal with that, or it's the platforms have got their own measurement studies. They can deal with that one. We'll deal with some of these arguably bigger issues. So I'm surprised actually it came about pre-event. I'm not surprised that it's lower down during this session, because I don't think it's part of our day-to-day roles for a lot of us. Probably as the advertiser, I've got more investment into media measurement. So yeah, it's an interesting one for me, and I'll probably be joining that session later to pick your brains on it, Sam. But
yeah, that'd be great. I was going to say on effectiveness, actually, again, like everything we do in advertising is to drive ad effectiveness. It's to make people see our advertising, make people engage with it. And again, it's another one of these, these points where a lot of these individual things ladder up to making great, effective advertising. That's what we're here to do through media, right? So effectiveness is third on here. Should that be one of the top 3? I mean, Jackie, what was your take on that?
That was my number, well, joint with sustainability.
Right, yeah.
And again, I mean, I will keep saying the same thing, but they all go back to solid, like a media planner who can tell you how to deploy all of these things and manage short-term versus long-term media effects. And measurement is a big part of that too, of course, to go back to your other point. But imagine a world where there was no media planners with proper cascading measurement frameworks. I mean, it's already complex enough. So how do we ever start joining the dots or trying to drive better effectiveness if we don't know what we're measuring? But effectiveness is one of those ones that's actually related to loads of the topics on the board. I'm sure everyone will agree. But for example, with sustainability, how do we start measuring like what channels are both effective and sustainable? With cost of living, Peter Field will say in a recession, people start focusing again on short-term metrics, on the stuff that's measurable and quickly shared back to a boardroom. But actually you lose the bigger picture, you lose the lasting effects of your brand campaign. So all of these become knitted together, and that's why I think it should be a topic, especially in a cost of living crisis, that stays top of the agenda as well.
And actually, to someone in the audience's point, sorry, Chris, you were polite and put your hand up.
No, it's fine. Go on.
Sure. I was just going to say to someone's point in the audience about collaboration, I think the measurement piece is only going to have to become more important for media owners, for example. They're going to have to say, right, what are you looking at? Are you looking at short-term objectives? Are you looking at long-term objectives? Because, okay, maybe we can't help you with some of the short-term stuff, but if you look at this from a long-term perspective, we can help you deliver X, Y, Z. So it's really important for everyone in this room to know the measurement agenda of their client, because it's only going to help them grow together, essentially. And especially as we go into recessions, potentially, like you say, you go really short term.
No more hands moving forward, so I'm just going to jump in.
Let's do it.
But I just want to argue, how can we measure effectiveness, or say effectiveness is important when, everybody in this room, whether a brand or an agency, have made pledges, 2%, 3%, we're going to spend this on minority groups, we're going to send this on responsible media, but we've put it down at number 7. Woo! Everybody in this room knows that that there's not yet even the processes in place to do measurement or effectiveness of black media, of LGBT media, of sticking your ad on the channels in Sky that are after 600 because, go into a Birmingham Indian family and that's what they're watching, Sony India, etc. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying about effectiveness and measurement, but I don't know how it can be so high when we're clearly not measuring the effectiveness of our own announcements or pledges, because we've stuck that down at number 7.
But if we did measure it, how much easier would that make us all get on board and do it?
If we did, but we're not even acknowledging it.
If you had media planners who knew how to bring you on that journey, it would make things a lot more easy as well.
Sure.
Well, it's getting really heated right now, so I'm going to leave the panel with that thought for a second,
All right.
leave you with that. I know we've got Ella Sagar, our reporter from the Media Leader, on the floor. Ella Sagar, tell us what you're thinking. Tell us what somebody else is thinking.
Hi, it's Anna Sampson. I'm a consultant and Mediatel columnist, and I've got a question for the panel. Sam, I really liked your game of kind of grouping together some themes.
Thank you, thanks.
And I'd like to group together the talent crisis, the cost of living crisis, and diversity and inclusion under the banner of mental health, given it was World Mental Health Awareness Day this week. And I think I'd like to ask the panel, in your organisations, because it's more of an organisational question rather than what you do in your day job, what are your businesses doing to safeguard the mental health of your staff? Because I think these are all really complex topics, and we can only really tackle them if we're safeguarding our staff's mental health.
So I can't talk necessarily to agencies and to advertising, because I'm part of the broadcast industry, but where I work, for example, Channel 4 News, so we're a very hard news program, so we kind of get footage and picture of a lot of really grim and horrible stories and pictures from wars and things that go on like that. And I think that what we noticed about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, during the pandemic in particular, was that a lot of our staff, it was affecting them really badly, negatively, mentally. And so we had an opportunity to see somebody once a week to just talk about how that imagery was impacting on our mental health. And it's not just wars, it might be doing a story on something foul like, I don't know, paedophilia, something really grim. And those things as journalists, we just churn out and do. That's our job, we just do them day to day, get on with it, do a live broadcast next day. But if you're constantly one day doing a story about a war in Yemen, and the next day a young girl that was sexually abused, and then the next day trauma of a family that lost a son because he was shot by the police, that's going to have an impact on your mental state as a journalist. So we had to really be very careful and very delicate about how we spoke to our colleagues about how that was impacting their mental state. So we brought someone in, and once a week we could see that person. That person's not there anymore, so I think that we need to bring that person in, because despite we had a really high peak during the pandemic of really grim stories, we do it every day anyway, so that shouldn't have stopped. So in my industry, we are getting better at acknowledging the mental state of journalists and broadcasters, because we can be robots and just churn them out and not really think about the effects it's having on our mental state.
Okay, I'll add as well. Listening more really is probably the most effective thing we've done, and the most I've learned, and then therefore we've learned as a company to listen to what staff want, whether it is, a psychologist, whether it is that the processes that we got in place are not really working for certain members of staff or certain communities that we employ. Yeah, so, to help the well-being of people, you've got to listen to them, and especially for your staff, so making sure that we listen more. And it's something we've made mistakes with and learned from, and are getting much better at now, so, yeah.
And Amy, I'd particularly like to hear from you on the work you're doing in the menopause space, if that's possible, because I know that Boots are doing some great work there, and there's a definite connection between menopause and mental health as well. I don't know if that's what you're going to cover, but...
Yeah, I'll do a similar point first in terms of, Boots is known for physical health remedies, so it's got pain relief when you need it. But these past couple of years, we're really pivoting into seeing mental health exactly the same as we would a physical health, and how we can help remedy that. So, internally in the organisation, whereas before you might say, okay, on your lunch break, go on a walk around the campus. Actually, no, you don't necessarily need to physically go on a walk. Actually, just take some time out in a separate room to read or to do something that's more for your mental well-being. So there's certainly stuff going on internally in terms of how we frame and think about mental health, and sort of less stigma on it. Menopause, in a huge role to play there. I think as, the proportion of our audience going through the menopause is huge. A couple of weeks ago, I hope some of you saw the menopause monologues, where various talent were sort of talking about their experiences, which was so powerful. And it's, I guess, how we just let those people talk. You know, there's no script there. It's giving people a voice to talk. And Boots, with the size and presence we've got on the high street, we can just boost that message out a bit further. And then having actually the products that sit behind it is almost just the key benefit at the end that we can help deliver. So we can do that full journey from talking, education, and then actually some of the product remedies itself. So it's a huge, huge space for us, and it should be.
So I want to move on now to a different topic, and trust in media is something which is number 2 here, and we haven't really discussed it yet. Jordan, obviously this was your key point, but we should be, as the media leader, talking about and championing in 2023. Trust in media hit rock bottom in 2015 at 25%, that's from Credos. Public are most concerned about the boundaries of advertising in their lives, and while concerns around bombardment have diminished slightly since 2018, it remains the biggest driver of distrust. Now, Ella, I know this is something that you've been writing about a lot, and our columnists have been writing a lot about on the Media Leader. Surely everything comes back to trust in media. Could you tell us a little bit about the conversations you've been having?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, Nick Manning, one of our columnists, wrote a column on the trust in media, declining trust in media, what needs to change for the dial to shift. And let me just check my notes because I wrote one of his quotes down.
Nearly there.
Oh, can't find it now. Anyway, but it's interesting how it changes per channel as well, and traditional channels versus digital channels, and I mean Lauren was mentioning earlier that trying to differentiate between traditional and digital when there are so many touch points. Can you really say, oh yes, TV and radio tend to come out on top in most surveys by Radio Centre and Thinkbox, but then again, you listen to the radio on your phone, on an app, is that also like a digital channel as well? So those are just some thinking points that I wonder if the panel has any thoughts on.
Thanks, Ella. By the way, we're about to come up to our second vote, and all I guess we want you to be thinking about as part of this is, what are the 3 most important things? Do some of these points ladder up to these things like Renaissance in media planning? Does it ladder up to trust in media? And we've obviously had some good perspectives on that too. What's your take on trust in media? Tell us again, Jordan, why you champion that so much.
Because without the trust, you've got no audience, and I think there's a big scale in terms of trust in media. So it can be as basic as if a channel was consistently applying a name to the wrong figure they're showing on TV wrong, which the BBC got a lot of heat for recently. There was an example of they had an image of Romelu Lukaku as a football player, but Aston him as Stormzy. That sort of thing often happens for black people in particular. Yeah. If I'm a consumer of that network, I'm thinking, well, if you can't even get the name right of the right person, the right photo, why would I watch your report of whatever you're reporting about? To more serious things like just blatant lies. Mm-hmm. So things that there are certain news outlets that I won't name, that won't be fair, but just blatantly report lies. And those lies have an impact on people's lives. If you have people coming on radio stations and news programs talking about a reality that they don't know about and talking to the nation about that subject, that's going to have an impact on certain groups of people that listen to those stations and are affected by it. So trust is really, really important. And I think that people now migrate to more online platforms. They feel like, and it's not necessarily always right, but they feel like the mainstream platforms are unreliable. And I work for a mainstream platform, so where I work, that's not true, but I understand why people think that's true. And the minute you lose that trust, you lose your audience. If you lose your audience, you've got no product. So it's really, really essential that people take the trust really, really seriously. And just briefly as well, we did a thing at Channel 4 called Back to Front this year, where for the entire day, Channel 4 had purely programming that was fronted by black people. Mm-hmm. And all the adverts as well were all by either black advertisers or featured black people as well. That was met with a lot of cynicism in terms of, was it tokenistic? Or was it actually the first step in trying to readdress the diversity and inclusion that was needed for mainstream television? That's still an ongoing conversation, but I'm interested to know the numbers in terms of advertising, how it impacted them. Were numbers up or were numbers down? viewing figures? Were they up or were they down? So I think trust is at the core of what it is that I do. And if people don't trust what it is I'm telling them down the TV or down the radio, I've got no product anymore.
We're about to go into the second vote now. One very, very quick question from the floor from Ella.
It's not really a question, it's more of talking into this point about trust in media. I've got a 23-year-old son, and the issue he has is relevance. Before you obtain trust, you've got to be relevant to your audience. And we've kind of talked around that. But he, for instance, doesn't trust. I have big issues with him about trying to get him to vote, for example. He doesn't feel that the mainstream news platforms are relevant to him, and he distrusts some of the news output. And I think if we're talking about, there's lots of different content, obviously, which can be analysed here. I mean, he loves sport, and sport it's authentic because it's live. He watches it, it's fine. There's nothing that can be tweaked or can be made fake about that. But when it comes to the actual production of news content, there's a huge problem there, and I think that's not just for him, because he's not particularly in one particular subsection of society. I just think it's a generational thing. I think there's a young generation which is coming down the pipe, which for certainly broadcasters, you've got to be really concerned about, because they're not listening to you. So you've got to be relevant.
And that's where online platforms are really important, because relevance is key. I think if I want to hear about the challenges that women face in the workplace, I'm going to go to a platform where women are speaking about that more so than I would a guy. My platform, Black Academic, we have the trust and relevance of our community, we hope, that speak to issues that they're going through. So the minute when we become irrelevant, again, we lose them. So relevance is really, really key. And online platforms allow people now to break away from mainstream media and do their own thing and garner an audience where they are relevant and they are trusted.
That's where the I in DEI comes in. Inclusion.
I'm gonna cut in there. Sorry, Chris. We have to go to a second vote now. Chris, we will come back to you.
No, you won't.
He's absolutely
lying to you.
I know.
I do that all the time. You're lying, but it's fine. I do.
Anyway, so quickly moving on. And yeah, Chris, we definitely will come back to you, but we're going to the second vote now. Here we go. And what I want you to do is really think about whether that one thing you chose last time is still the one thing you think we should be championing. This is what the media leader, your publication, will be championing next year. And out of the top 3, we're going to be wanting to pick 2 of those to put through until we move on to the final part of the debate and the third thing. So get your votes in now. We've already got 45, 49. Let's see what we're going to be putting forward into that top 3 bucket. I'm going to cut this off in 10 seconds. Has everybody got it in?
No. Hurry up. Dave?
It's not loading.
Oh, that's why I didn't win. Doesn't even work.
Oh.
It's rigged.
We're just waiting for a couple more seconds. Ella, during this point, can you tell us your thoughts at this moment and some of the things you've been hearing from the floor?
Well, yeah, I think that the thing that makes it difficult is they're all really important issues. So, and they all feed into each other. I think that's the kind of the vibe that I'm getting from everyone here. But just to go back to that trust in media element, I found the quote from Nick Manning, everyone, which is, advertisers should actively defund those media vehicles who seek to disseminate the kind of disinformation which erodes public trust in 100%. Media. So I don't know if, boycotts or defunding, if that's something that people in this room or the panel have a particular view on, but that was just an interesting point from one of our columnists.
People aren't stupid. If organisations are selling products on the basis of lies or that they're just not authentic, people will not buy that product. Do you know what I mean? So I think defunding is definitely something that needs to be considered very, very strongly, I would say. That takes bravery, but I think it's needed.
100%. There was I had the privilege of being at the Eradicate Hate Summit in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. And they were showing, it was sort of the US government showing you where the funding had come from to fund the Proud Boys that then stormed the Capitol on the insurrection on 6th January. And you think that them two things are far apart. A website that's being funded by Google Ads. You know, how is that going to have armed people storming into the capital of the US? But it ain't so far apart. It really, you know, how do they buy the guns? How do they get themselves organized? It comes from us in this room. It comes from funding. So yeah, we've really got, it is all of our problem. We've got to make sure that we're putting the processes in place, or even just making it as consideration.
Okay, well, it's time. Are you ready to find out the results of the second votes? And then let's have a quick discussion with our panel about those top 3 and what we'd like to put forward as the future leaders into that top 3 bucket for the media leader to champion in 2023. Question is, are you ready? Bit of suspense, and here we go. Diversity and inclusion.
I love you all again.
I think it's like recency though, because we're just talking about trust in media. Like,
we've got diversity and inclusion, trust in media, sustainability, inflation, cost of living, media measurement, which I'm really surprised about coming down there. The talent crisis. Chris, get out of the way. Inflation, cost of living, effectiveness. Okay, well, I'm seeing effectiveness really low, media measurement really low, and that's surprising to me because it's one of the things that we're asked most about for content at our events. So I think we should definitely take another look at that. But panelists, what do you think we should put through as at least one thing for those top 3? Do you think we should put D&I forwards? I thought that D&I might feed into the renaissance of media planning.
Yes, we should stick. If you want to stay friends, you should stick it through.
That's yeah. Well, I did say I'd let you have a voice again, so you know, feel free to give your point that you were about to make before I cut you off.
I've forgotten what that one was, but yeah, you know, everybody said it. They're all important. I'm obviously going to go for the top one because I'm a black gay guy, and I've only just started seeing myself in ads. I've only just started seeing myself in TV shows. I've only just started seeing people like you presenting shows, you know. So my kids can now aspire to be what they can actually see. So D&I, whether it's in media, whether it's in entertainment, whether in all walks of life, it's really important because we need to change the world, and we need to pick battles and stick with them and see them through to the end. And that one is one that's really close to me.
And I think the inclusion part of the D&I think we talk a lot about diversity, but you mentioned earlier on, we don't focus on much. The inclusion bit is arguably more important. Without the inclusion, I don't think any of those things are doable. Mm-hmm. You need to ensure that you are inclusive to ensure that all those things can actually be done. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You need to include different types of people, different skill sets to understand how to execute all of those things. So I actually think D&I should be the most important thing, because from there, everything else then follows and becomes easier as well.
Okay. Are we all happy to put diversity and inclusion through as one of those top 3 things? What do you think?
100%. I mean, at the same time, people in this room, not only are we all advertising media professionals, but we're all human beings who do buy products as well. And as human beings, this is what we want to see. This is what we want to champion. So I think we're putting both hats on, which is a point you made right at the start, Chris, and we should be. So yeah, 100% very happy to back.
Yeah, and we are, you know, the media leader, right? So this is about diversity and inclusion in media, and that's every, you know, this is and just to make sure we're championing the right things, because like this is representative, right? Are we championing mostly on the details, things like diversity and inclusion on the media plan, or in media, the people in media, the talent? Or
all of it.
All of it?
All of it. Yeah. You know, we need to... sorry, people, but this room ain't black enough, and, you know, it's definitely not LGBTQ plus enough, and it's a bit too male, to be honest, from up here. So, nothing wrong with all you males, but we could, you know, the world is 51% female, so maybe this room could be. So, yeah, I think, and that's from a talent side, but then also from the diversity of media. You know, if we're going to help our clients get growth and reach new customers, then we can't keep sticking our ads in the same place. We need, you know, and we can't keep featuring the same people in them ads and then expect the rest of society to rush out and buy. Just like your son, he's not feeling relevant. Neither's my mixed race son. He doesn't see half the ads he sees. He doesn't think it's for him, you know. So, yeah, it's across all walks that we need to get better at it, and we are. You know, I know a good 60% of this room actually, and I know like that 60%, I know them because they are doing this day in, day out. The other 40%, I'll get to know you later.
Thanks,
so, yeah.
Chris. I've got to move on now.
I get delved every time, don't I?
So I think what we're going to do is at this point we're going to lock in D, E and I, diversity and inclusion. We're going to lock it in. That's going to be one of our top 3. Let's move on to trust in media. Should we lock that in too? It's number 2. We said we were going to lock 2 in. Trust in media, is that something we're locking in? It feels like one of those things that ladders up.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Jackie?
I think that, like, again, they are all related. Like, I look at trust in media from a slightly different angle, and I see it as like kind of an integrity point as well. And when you think of it that way, it actually helps sustainability. Like, there's been research shown to decrease the carbon count of digital advertising. Publishers need to decrease some ad tech. They need to have less cluttered sites, which actually kind of filters into attention and relevance as well. So all of those things coming together, I think could help sustainability if advertisers and if the media owners can come together and try and show more integrity. I think we can get sustainability in there, if that makes sense, because I just think, like, I look at HFSS, and how many years has that been going on for? And we still don't have the watershed. But, like, how many clients actually are not running advertising now, or are using a self-imposed watershed? Like, where do their principles lie? So how do we actually shift into a world that's more sustainable unless we have a massive push as an industry around it? I just don't see how it's possible. So I don't want sustainability to go if there's top 2, basically, but if we can get it into trust in media somehow, then I'll be happy.
And let's take a view from before. Ella Cigar, who have you been talking to?
So I have a slight question to unify kind of all of those topics. Do you believe that we as an industry are putting enough money and investing into the creative and the message? Because if you invest in the message and the creative, you can represent diversity, you can build trust in advertising because people like good ads, you can then actually tell the right sustainability messages with good ads that actually make people kind of take notice and change their behaviours. It helps media measurement. It will help the talent crisis, because if we're producing good ads, young talent will want to work in our industry. At the moment, we're not creating good ads in the main. If you go on the internet, lots of the ads are dynamically targeted, not that great. So as a unifying topic for all of these, should we be investing more in the creative and the message that we are putting out there? And the bad ads, we should just stop buying.
Does some of this fit into that trust in media point? If that's something we're putting forward, will those things feed into trust?
They do, but I would push back and say, I think we probably are spending enough money on what we're doing, but are we spending it wisely enough? Are we spending it in the right areas? Yeah. So I don't think it's a case of, it's like the old NHS argument, there's lots of money gets pumped in, but is it getting pumped into the right areas? So I don't think, more money is obviously great, but I think what's more important is, where is that money going? I think that would probably be my biggest thing. I wouldn't necessarily be saying to spend billions and billions more. I'd say look at where that money is going. Mm-hmm. And again, effectiveness, is it getting the desired outcome to include everybody to come towards that product, that industry, wherever it may be.
I took the point to mean perhaps, I'm adding 2 and 2 together here, but like maybe that sometimes creative goes first, which I don't agree with, obviously. But in some cases, but I do, like, so if that's the case and the conversation starts from a creative perspective, absolutely, I think like D&I has to be included there, because otherwise you've missed the opportunity. But actually, I go back to my very, very low down, off the fold, so media renaissance point, which is, it starts in my head with understanding your audience, which should be the brief to the creative agency, which backs up a lot of the stuff you've been saying, Chris, because I think unless media planners dig into the right data, really understand who their audiences are, the differences across different segments, their mindsets, how they're different, and start having quite fine-tuned plans with the right creative to engage those audiences, then we've missed the whole point.
Okay, so we're coming towards the end now, so I'm going to move us forward. We've put.
A hand that went up.
Just to say, speaking into all of those, including inclusion, let's have some media independence.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking to your point, Jackie, about planning, let's have some media independence.
But that's what you need, is that agnostic planning, 100%.
We're coming right to the end now, so I'm going to have to move us on. But we've put diversity and inclusion into the bucket. We've put trust in media into the bucket. Now, we've got one more point that we want to make, one more thing that the media leader must champion going into 2023. Now, my take on it is we've got sustainability there. That's very close. We've got media measurement, and I think we need to put effectiveness into that, media measurement and effectiveness. Let's have that there. We've got the talent crisis, but I think a lot of that comes into diversity and inclusion. So I think what we should do is we should have a vote between sustainability, media measurement, and effectiveness as one. Just vote for media measurement, by the way, if that's the one you want to go for, or the renaissance of media planning. So choose between those three, and we're going to go into the final vote. Sustainability, only vote for these ones. All of the other votes for the other things won't count. Sustainability, media measurement and effectiveness. I'll be coming on to the third vote in a minute. Don't worry, don't do it yet. Media measurement and effectiveness, sustainability or renaissance in media planning. Okay, you can vote now. Remember, it's sustainability, it's a measurement or effectiveness, and the renaissance of media planning. Vote for one of those three to be the final that goes into the bucket. We've got 44 votes in so far, 54 now, 69. Ella, have you got a final point from the floor that you want to bring up?
I think we had someone with a question about renaissance of media planning.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I wrote down my question. But so the conversations that I have in my business as an advertiser really pertains closely to the renaissance of media planning. I work in a traditionally like digital marketing, performance versus brand siloed, like B2B SaaS company. And the conversations that I'm trying to put forward are, how do we start moving more into offline activities or traditional marketing activities to a leadership that is traditionally very focused on intense media measurement, really close effectiveness, and just when you go to traditional world, it gets a bit more blurry. And so, one, I think that Renaissance media planning should be up as the third because it encompasses not just the way that we change our thoughts about digital versus traditional, but then again, like the past policy on sustainability and DEI should be changing as well. But my question to the panel is, what are the conversations that you have with brands or within your own businesses about, you know, traditional versus digital, siloed performance versus brand, and how are you helping move those conversations into a more holistic, positive, like healthy direction?
That's for you.
It honestly is case by case because every client is so different and every industry is so different and every category is so different. But I agree obviously with everything you said. I actually planted him over there. But I think it's just about the agency showing it is effectiveness, and that's why I think media planning is so important. But like joining the dots and explaining what the outcome should be, helping them find different ways of measuring things like incrementality if they can't afford econometrics, and trying to show that holistic vision, like relying on the IPA. There's so much stuff there, relying on work, but who joins those dots together and helps them, I guess, internally have the ammunition to have the right conversations? Because that's what we see a lot. It ends up being like divided, and how do we give the ammunition to show that actually both have a role and where everything sits together? So unfortunately, this case by case, because every client situation is a little bit different, every structure, you know. But I think the agency has a big responsibility to help join those dots.
And are you setting up the agencies so that those two teams can join? Because I know internally at Boots, for example, we are pulling those teams together now. Brand and performance don't sit separately; they sit in the same team. But we need the agency to do that as well, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Which it feels like.
Yeah, it does. And that's the media planners. That's their job, basically, for sure. There's strategists and media planners who do both. And people lean into different things. You know, if you've got a performance client, you might have someone with a little bit more performance history, but that doesn't mean they don't do brand. I think it's the experience of everyone coming together, and that's key.
And it's been really clear on your objective setting, isn't it? I think sometimes we set things up for failure by trying to measure PPC in the same way that we would TV. Like you have to go into it knowing what you want to measure and what you want to get out of it.
My biggest observation in my long career is, I think the best work I've ever got to is when clients actually include the agencies, both creative and media, from the very beginning and share objectives, which honestly doesn't happen all the time. It should. Share objectives, even like I've been in situations where personal objectives are even shared. Do you know what I mean? And it's one team with one vision, and then you can work out that roadmap together.
Brilliant. Well, let's see what the final vote says. And this is where we decide what that top final thing we want to put forward. We've already put forward diversity and inclusion. We've already put forward trust in media. What are we going to put forward as the final one? and we're going to have a very quick final word from the panelists to decide which one that's going to be. But you voted for... Will we ever know? Sustainability, and it's come out quite far in advance. Is that the one we're putting forward? Do you all agree, panel?
Yes. Yeah. Like, imagine if we're sitting here in a year and nothing has changed. Yeah. That's my fear. You know, like, we have to all, like, it's such a massive, daunting uphill climb to get this right. And without everyone coming together, I think we'll regret it in a year's time.
And we won't be able to sit here in 25 years because I'll be underwater. Yeah. So.
And what elements of sustainability should we be championing on the media leader?
All of it.
Is it thinking more about it in terms of our media plan? Is it what we actually do day to day in our jobs? Remember how much, you know, just deleting emails can use up so much energy. Mm-hmm. There's so many elements to this, and it's hard to know what to unpack.
I don't think you can pick and choose. I don't think it's an a la carte menu. It's sort of, you're either going to save the planet or you're not, you know, and that's the end focus. That's the end game of sustainability. But looking at what we're doing what you're doing as a company, what you're doing as a human, what are you doing as championing it for other people to take note as well. I think all of these points.
We work in an industry which is basically just consumerism. You know, like it's not a positive. There's radical change needed. And then so you need clients having one conversation and making some commitments to what they're going to actually support. You need media agencies figuring out how to do that in a more sustainable way. You need creative agencies figuring out how to lighten asset loads and think about like sustainable ways of landing content. So it literally is every single like part of the industry coming together.
It's crazy for me that some of the easiest things that we do at Boots are actually the packaging changes. The product stuff is actually, it's quite easy to get more sustainable. You know, what Boots have been doing with face wipes and things and ensuring, you know, people aren't flushing and it's clogging, you know, all that stuff, it's actually quite easy to change. It just baffles me that the hardest thing to do is the media implementation side of things. Surely that should be quite easy and we can all share learnings and do it, but it's not. It's an uphill battle.
It's also tied into effectiveness because, like, we don't have all the answers because it's so new.
Yep.
So what client is going to say, turn off this channel because the ROI might be like through the roof, but actually is quite negative for carbon. So who's going to be brave and start like changing their behaviour? Because it's a big ask.
Brilliant. Wow. Future leaders, I'm sorry, we're all out of time. But future leaders, we have chosen our 3 topics to put through, the 3 topics that the media leader should champion in 2023. But there is a catch. We've still got the discussions all the way through the day, and then the final panel, the closer of today, is going to be the final word. We've got Jan Gooding, Nick Manning, and Mick Buckley on stage to decide the differences between this room and the Bishopsgate room, and they'll pull all 6 topics together and decide what the final 3 things the media leader should champion in 2023. So it's not over yet. We have chosen together diversity and inclusion, trust in media and sustainability. A huge thank you to our panel, Chris, Jordan, Amy and Jackie. And thank you to you all.